Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I never thought a single night could change everything between us. It was supposed to be ordinary, just another evening at home, just my husband and me. But something shifted. Something deep, something raw. I saw a side of him I'd forgotten, or maybe never really noticed until now. It wasn't about big gestures or candlelit dinners. It was in the way he looked at me, like I was still the woman he fell in love with, not just the one he wakes up next to every day. We've been married for a few years now, and like most couples, we've had our ups and downs. Some days we're best friends, some days we're strangers under the same roof. Life gets busy: work, bills, routines. You forget the fire. You forget how it feels to be wanted not just out of habit, but out of desire. I never told him, but I missed that feeling. I missed us. But that night, something changed. He touched me differently, not just with his hands, but with his presence. There was a gentleness in him that didn't feel forced. A calm intensity, if that even makes sense. We weren't just reconnecting physically. It was emotional. It was real. And in that moment, I realized how much I'd buried, how much of myself I'd put on hold just to survive the day-to-day. I remembered what it was like to feel wild, free, deeply feminine, and truly loved. Not in the fairy tale way, but in the way where your soul exhales because it's finally seen. Was it him who changed? Or was it me finally opening my eyes again? I don't know. But what I do know is that everything that happened on that bed that night didn't just wake up my body, it woke up me. And now, I can't stop thinking, was that night a fluke? Or the beginning of something new for us? This story isn't about perfection. It's about the mess, the moments, the magic that somehow sneaks in when you least expect it. If you've ever been in love, lost it a little, and wanted to feel alive again, I think you'll get it. So stay with me, because what happened next, what he did next, left me speechless. Have you ever had a moment where your partner surprised you in a way that made your heart race again? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to know. And let's do a quick poll: do you think long-term love can still spark new passion, or is that just in movies? Subscribe for the next part, because trust me, this is only the beginning. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there, my back to him, eyes wide open, heart still racing. Everything about what just happened kept playing in my mind: his words, his hands, the way he held me afterward like he didn't want to let go. But it wasn't just the physical closeness, it was the emotional weight behind it. It felt like he was trying to tell me something without saying it out loud. We've been together for 7 years, married for 4. And I'll be honest, our relationship hasn't always been smooth. There were phases when we barely talked about anything beyond grocery lists and work stress. There were times when I thought maybe we were just roommates with a shared past. I don't know when the distance started, but it crept in quietly, like fog on a cold morning. And I let it happen. Maybe he did too. That's the part that hurts the most. But yesterday, something felt different. He looked at me like he actually saw me. Not the tired version of me who handles bills and laundry. Not the distracted partner who scrolls on her phone during dinner. He looked at me like I still mattered, like I was still the woman he wanted to explore, understand, and love, not out of obligation, but choice. Still, a part of me wonders, why now? What changed? We didn't talk much after it. Just a quiet goodnight and the usual way he pulled the blanket over us. But something in the silence wasn't usual. It was heavy, charged. Was he trying to reconnect with me because he sensed I was slipping away emotionally? Did he notice I'd started turning down his touches? That I barely kissed him back anymore? Or maybe he's holding on to something he hasn't told me yet. A fear, a regret, something he's been hiding? I wish I could shake off this unease, but it lingers. Because deep love, real, raw love isn't just sweet. It can be scary. It forces you to feel things you've kept buried. And tonight, I felt them all. Now I'm left here wondering, what if this was the start of something real again? Or worse, what if it was his way of saying goodbye? Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt a sudden change in someone you thought you knew completely? Did it pull you closer or make you question everything? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your side too. The next morning, everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. He was in the kitchen making coffee like he always does, humming the same old tune, acting like nothing had changed. I watched him from the hallway for a moment, trying to read his face. Was he avoiding what happened last night, or was he just pretending everything was fine? Either way, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was sitting between us, something unspoken but heavy. I joined him at the table, and we talked like we always do. Weather, work, bills. But the way he glanced at me in between sips, like he was holding back, it bothered me. I wanted to ask him straight out, what happened last night? Why did it feel so different? But I didn't. I was scared of what he might say. Or worse, that he wouldn't say anything at all. Later that day, I found something. It was small, hidden in the back pocket of his jeans while doing laundry. A crumpled receipt from a jewelry store downtown. My heart paused. He hadn't mentioned buying anything. Was it for me? Was he planning something? Or was it for someone else? That thought hit hard, and I hated myself for even thinking it. But once the doubt creeps in, it spreads fast. I spent the whole day replaying everything, how he had been more present lately, but also more distracted at times. He'd been on his phone more, stepping outside to take calls he didn't explain. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. We all deserve privacy. But still, the receipt sat on the counter, like a silent question waiting to be answered. By evening, the air between us was thick. He noticed my distance and asked if I was okay. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him everything I was thinking. But instead, I forced a smile and nodded. Because part of me still wanted to believe in us. In love. In trust. But something has changed, and we both feel it even if neither of us is saying it out loud. Now I'm starting to wonder, is this the beginning of us rediscovering each other, or the start of us breaking apart? There's also this other thing. A friend of mine, Tanya, messaged me yesterday. She said she saw him near the pier last week, alone, but looking worried. He told me he was at work that night. Now I don't know what to believe. I know relationships are complicated. People grow, drift, reconnect, or sometimes lose each other completely. But right now, I feel like I'm standing at the edge of something. And I don't know if I'm about to fall, or fly. Have you ever found something that made you question everything? What would you do if you were me? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And tell me, do you think secrets can still live in a marriage and not destroy it? That evening, I couldn't take it anymore. The tension had built up too much. I had the receipt in my hand, tucked inside my hoodie pocket, and my head was spinning. My heart said to trust him, but my gut whispered otherwise. He came home later than usual, said traffic was bad, didn't kiss me like he usually does. Just a quick hey and a tired smile. I watched him move through the house like everything was fine, but I couldn't ignore the weight sitting between us anymore. I waited until after dinner. He was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, and I sat across from him, quiet, nervous. He looked up and asked if I was okay again. I didn't answer. I just slowly pulled out the receipt and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. His eyes froze. Not panicked, not shocked, just frozen, like he'd been expecting this moment. "What's this?" I asked. My voice was calm, but my hands were cold. He looked at me, then at the paper, then back again. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything for a few seconds. That silence said more than words. "I was going to tell you," he finally said, but even that didn't feel solid. "Tell me what?" That's the part he didn't follow up on. Instead, he just leaned back, like he was tired of hiding whatever it was. My stomach flipped. I didn't know if I wanted the truth or if I was afraid of it. And just then, the doorbell rang. We both looked at the door, confused. It was late. We weren't expecting anyone. I stood up, half in a daze, and walked to the door. When I opened it, I saw a woman standing there. She was maybe in her 30s, holding a small box in her hands. She looked right past me and straight at him. My heart stopped. He stood behind me now, completely still. The woman smiled faintly. "I think he forgot to give this to you," she said softly, and held out the box. I looked at him, then at her, and my mind raced through every possibility. Who was she? Why did she have something meant for me? Everything was spinning. And in that moment, I realized, whatever this was, it was deeper than I thought. Now I need to know. What do you think's really going on? Who is this woman? What would you do in this moment? Drop your guesses in the comments. Because the next part, it changes everything. The woman didn't move. She just stood there, holding the box out like it weighed more than it should. My hands felt numb, and my throat tightened. I didn't take it from her. I couldn't. My husband stepped forward slowly, his face blank but his eyes restless, like he was trying to read the room, trying to measure how much I had already guessed. "Can we talk?" the woman asked, this time looking at me. Not at him. Not past me. Directly at me. I stepped aside without even thinking. Maybe I was hoping for answers. Maybe I was just too stunned to react. She walked in, carefully, like she didn't want to step on anything fragile, like I was fragile. And maybe I was. He didn't stop her. She sat down, placed the small box on the coffee table next to the receipt, and took a slow breath. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, voice soft. "I didn't even plan to come tonight. But he's been avoiding this for weeks." I looked at him, and this time I didn't hide the hurt in my eyes. "Avoiding what?" I asked. "What is this?" The woman glanced at him once more before speaking. "I'm his sister." The air in the room shifted. For a second, everything paused. My heart sank, but not from relief, because nothing about this felt simple. He never told me he had a sister. In all these years, not once. "Half-sister," he corrected, finally breaking his silence. "We only found out about each other recently." I stared at him, stunned. "You never mentioned her." "Not once." "Why?" "Because I didn't know how to explain it," he said. "My dad, he had another family. I found out 2 months ago. I was trying to process it before I brought it to you." The woman nodded slowly. "I didn't mean to crash into your life like this. But I found a letter from our father before he passed. It mentioned you, and something he left behind for you. That's what's in the box." My breath caught. Suddenly, everything felt even more tangled. A father I never knew about, a secret sibling, a mystery box sitting right there between us. And all this while I was doubting his love, wondering if he was cheating, spiraling over a receipt. But somehow, this felt even heavier. He looked at me then, really looked. I wasn't hiding an affair. I was hiding confusion. Pain. I didn't want to drop this on you without understanding it myself. And still, something didn't sit right. If it was just about family, why the secrecy? Why the stress, the calls outside, the long nights out? I looked at the box again. Should I open it? What would you do? Do you believe him? Is there still more to this story than his saying? Let me know in the comments. I want your honest thoughts. Because I haven't opened that box yet, and I don't know if I'm ready for what's inside. My hands were shaking as I finally reached for the box. It was light, smaller than I expected, but something about it made my chest tighten. He stood there, watching me, and she, his sister, sat quietly, her hands folded, Her eyes filled with a kind of quiet sadness I couldn't read. Slowly, I opened the lid. Inside was a letter. Old, yellowed at the edges, but carefully folded. Beneath it, a locket with a tiny photo of a woman, his mother, I assumed, and a man I'd never seen before. And under that, tucked in a neat envelope, was a will. His father's will. That's when it all started to fall into place. The letter wasn't just a goodbye, it was a confession. A man who had lived 2 lives, 2 families. And in this letter, he explained how he had left something behind not just for his son, but for the woman his son loved. Me. I looked up, confused. That's why I was distant, he said, finally stepping closer. He left a message for you. He knew about you. About us. He wrote about love and regret, and he wanted me to tell you everything. I just didn't know how. My eyes scanned the final lines of the letter. She is the heart you must never lose, it said. Even when you don't know how to love right, don't let her go. For a second, everything stopped. The doubt, the questions, the silence between us. It all broke. But then, the twist. Tucked in the will, there was another name. A third sibling. Someone neither of them knew existed. He stared at the page. What? That can't be right. His sister looked just as shocked. I thought it was just us. I looked at both of them. There's another one out there. And suddenly, everything shifted again. The box wasn't the end. It was just another beginning. We had come full circle, through doubt, distance, buried truths, but we weren't done yet. Tell me, if you were in my place, would you keep chasing the truth? Or would you finally let it rest? Comment below. I need to know, what would you do now? The next few days felt like slow motion. After everything we'd just uncovered, the secret sibling, the letter, the inheritance, the emotional wreckage, we both needed space to breathe. But instead of pushing each other away, we found ourselves talking more. The kind of raw, honest talks we hadn't had in a long time. He told me everything, how he found out about his father's other life, how overwhelmed he felt, and why he couldn't bring himself to drag me into it until he understood it himself. His sister, Maya, stayed in town a little longer. I got to know her not just as the woman who shook up my marriage in one night, but as a person with her own pain, her own longing to belong. We even laughed a few times. Strange, isn't it? How someone you meet by accident can start to feel like family. And that third sibling, we still don't know who they are. But we agreed to search together. Not because we needed another twist, but because the truth, no matter how complicated, deserves light. And maybe, just maybe, this whole journey was never about the secrets. Maybe it was about connection. About rediscovering what we'd forgotten. My husband and I, we're not perfect. But we're real. And what happened between us in the last few weeks woke something up in me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. We went through confusion, fear, even distance. But somehow, all of that peeled away the surface and brought us back to what matters. That night, I found myself lying beside him, just looking at him while he slept. And for the first time in forever, I felt peace, not because we had all the answers, but because we were finally facing the right questions together. So, if you've ever felt like love is slipping away, or like something's changed and you can't name it, just pause. Look a little deeper. Sometimes, it's not about fixing what's broken, but understanding what's hidden. Would you have stayed through all this? Or walked away when the truth got too heavy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And let me know, should this story continue? Because sometimes, endings are just another beginning.